welcome to PM Express. Now, imagine Christendom on a collision course with itself. The one thing that binds the people, tearing them apart. Politics eats into the fabric of the church, sowing divisiveness, sentiments echoed by Archbishop Duncan at the National Thanksgiving service on Sunday. Now, it brings to memory the NDC making political mincemeat of Pastor Mentor Otabill's education comments, which at the time were seen to coincide with their position. Is politics really breaking the church? You can express yourself freely and from any form of association, words captured in Ghana's Bible, the Constitution. But must this sow divisiveness? When in church, do you pray for MPP to win its legal battle or for NDC to maintain its win? Is it necessary for the church to meddle in state politics because freedom of speech is guaranteed? You can join us for this socio-political discussion by text 1760 or post your Facebook comments on our Facebook walls, facebook.com/Joy News. And if you're active on Twitter, it's simple. Our handle is Joy News. On TV, you can send us a tweet as well. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express. Tonight we're discussing politics versus Christendom. Before I introduce my guest, let's take a look at a short clip and then we'll continue.
Let's come to election dispute in Ghana. Instead of us taking arms and killing one another, the opposition decided to go to the Supreme Court. Now, even though litigation is stressful and it creates anxiety and the state and the feeling of uncertainty, it is a better option than us taking arms and killing one another and sharing innocent blood on the streets of Ghana. And for that, this Thanksgiving is so necessary for you and I to give thanks that we are still a nation and a people, even though we have challenges and difficulties. Say amen. We need to tackle the issue of tribal sentiments, tensions, and division. And in looking at that, to urge everyone under the sound of my voice, Your Excellency the President and ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very dangerous if we ignore the tribal sentiments and divisions among us until we find a way in bringing all political parties together to have a national agenda and a national manifesto, so no political party comes into power to carry out his own agenda, but follow the national agenda, and civil servant and nobody doesn't have to be sacked nor removed from office because we are following a national agenda. The culture and the vicious cycle of the winner takes it all must change. And I don't know how this will happen, Your Excellency, Mr. President. But there has to be a way. We have to find a way to break this vicious cycle and culture of the winner takes it all. The religious sentiments and divisions among us. It's very scary because even the churches are being divided in this country. There are men of God who are praying for, and there are men of God who are praying against. Some are praying for I don't know, and some are praying against what I don't know. But we are divided some way, somehow. There has to be a way to unite our ranks. It is too dangerous for some to be praying for and for some to be against. Political divisions, tensions in our country. Until these issues are addressed, Ghana is not safe.
Well, very interesting sound bites there from Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. Now, my guest tonight in the studio to discuss this is, to my immediate left, Bishop Samuel N. Mensah, who is a leader of the Full Gospel Church International. We're grateful to have you here. Next to him, we have Bishop Prince Benny Wood, who is the spokesperson for the Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana. Later on in the show, as we progress, we will get onto the phone lines to speak to Dr. Bosman Asare, who is a political scientist. Well, gentlemen, it's great to have you here.
Well, thank you.
So let me ask a simple question of each one of you. Maybe I'll start with you, Benny Wood. When you go into your closet to say your prayer, do you pray for or against a particular political party?
Well, thank you very much. I pray for Ghana, and I pray for the people of Ghana.
You don't pray for a political party.
No.
Let me tease you a bit. I mean, if you're praying for peace to be maintained or sustained in Ghana, do you pray that the NDC remains in power, or you pray that the MPP wins its court case? All these will lead to peace, right?
Yeah, I don't think that whoever wins the Supreme Court case must determine whether we should have peace or not.
Peace should be regardless of that.
Because the issue in court is part of the democratic process. So once we come to an end in the Supreme Court, it's just like elections are over, the winner is declared. There's no need for anybody to think that unless one particular person wins, there will be no peace. That is wrong. It's evil, and we pray against that.
That is evil. You've said two things. It is wrong and it is evil.
Yes.
Why do you use two such harsh words together? I mean, evil and wrong.
Yeah, because anything that destroys the fabric, the peaceful environment of a society, because our God is a God of peace. Anything that destroys peace, anything that brings chaos and violence is evil. And we pray against that.
All right. Bishop Samuel Mensah.
Yeah.
So I put the same question to you. When you pray, do you pray for or against a particular political party?
Well, Stephen, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. Once you have a government in place, then you have a responsibility to pray for the government of the day. That is what the scripture enjoins us, that first of all, thanksgiving be made to kings. And even at the time when Paul made that statement, it was an evil king. It was an ungodly leader, who was in the reins of affairs. And he was very brutal, even to the Christian community. However, scripture commanded them to pray for the kings, because in that you have peace. So once we have a government in place, our responsibility is to pray for the government in power.
Right. Bishop Mensah, I'll put more of those issues to you later, but let me get on to the phone line and speak to the political scientist, Dr. Bosman Asare, who has joined us now. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Now, this statement from Archbishop Duncan Williams raised quite a number of issues, raised political tension, religious sentiments, churches being divided along political lines, and then also raised key issues like asking that the winner-takes-all culture must change, etc. From where you stand as a political scientist, is it prudent?
I have been following politics and policies in several countries because of public policy. And you realize that what is fundamental, one of the fundamental wrongs we have in our political systems is the winner takes all. It's not only in Ghana, it's in other African countries, in Nigeria, in almost all the African countries. And the danger with that system is that it divides people along several lines, along ethnic, along religious, along several lines. And when it happens that way, national is difficult to achieve. Hardly do you find people agreeing to certain common things so that they can address the problems of the country. And we inherited this particular system from the Americans and the British. But the caveat here is that in the USA, in Britain, they are running a mature democracy. The system they are running is mature. So they find a way to bring people who even do not belong to the party in government. So in a way, people see it as a sense of we feeling. The government belongs to all of us. When you come to Africa, Ghana especially, Kenya and other countries, what we normally see is that the government happens to be for a particular people and against a certain section of the society. And the reason why we are having that is that we are not a mature people when it comes to the democracy.
So
until we get rid of that winner takes all, when you go to most Western European democracies, they, instead of the winner takes all, they have what they call the proportional representation, which normally leads to consensus in government.
Yeah.
But ours is not like that. So until as a country we understood that this is a fundamental wrong in our democratic process, churches are still going to be divided because people have a gut feeling that this government is not for us, it's not working for us. The government seems to be working for some people. So when it happens that way, they will find it very difficult working or working for that.
Yeah, so Doc, I wanted to ask you, I mean, what you've just said means that you squarely agrees with Archbishop Duncan Williams that
I totally agree.
Indeed
I've
is
been
the
making
case.
that point on several platforms.
Right, and so you also agree that politics is dividing churches, right?
Yeah, and it will be like that for several years to come.
Why do you say so? I mean, this is a prediction you've made that you think it's going to be like that for several years to come. On what basis do you say that?
No, you know, the winner takes all works such that it's like the majority party must govern and the minority party must just criticize. But as I indicated, in a typical mature system, you expect the majority to even give in to certain things. In other words, they should be ready to negotiate with the minority. But in our case, the experience is that once you win the election, everything belongs to you. If you look at the last election, assuming the allegations of fraud did not happen, you realize that one candidate got about 48, 47%, and the one who won even had less than 51%. But based on our constitution, the one who got less than 51% of the votes must form the government. He must be responsible for the appointment of all ministers of state, boards of state agencies, district chief executives, etc. So whenever you win, you are given wide latitude of authority, of power. And because we are running a system that is not mature, those who win, they don't have that particular benevolence or that particular understanding that we must even bring the winning coalition.
Right, Doc. I'll hold you there, and then
Obama became president. He retained the defense secretary under Bush. He made the statement that at this particular time, this is the best man for the job.
Doc, I like to hold you there and
let's get rid of all the traces of these people. So we need to run a system that will bring the best of
Doc, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Doc? Can you hear me, Doc?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. So I'm saying that I want to give the opportunity for Bishop Samuel Mensah and Prince Benny Wood, who are in the studio, to say a few things to some of the things you said. So Bishop Mensah, I started with you, really. Right. If you listen to the political scientists, is it how the church feels now that it is being divided? Because it's different when you hear that a political scientist says, yes, the church is being divided along political lines, and an archbishop also raises that issue. But is that what leaders of the church are feeling now?
Well, unfortunately, I think there are some few issues that politics seem to cloud our sense of judgment, and sometimes the decisions we need to make. And it is a concern for a number of Christian leaders. When sometimes you need to look at issues realistically, sometimes people think, well, because of sympathy towards a particular party, may not necessarily probably take a decision because with a fear that will incur the displeasure of a group of people that are have sympathy towards a particular party line. And I think this is where we should begin to grow and mature above that. Otherwise, it will indirectly begin to eat into the basic fabrics of the church's life. So yes, there is a point, but again, we should begin to show some level of maturity. I strongly believe that the church must not The church definitely must be involved in politics, but not partisan politics.
But that's weird. I mean, you're saying they must be involved in politics, but not partisan politics.
Yes.
I mean, how do you divorce the two? Politics, partisan politics.
Now, politics
They're the
is
same
about,
thing, really.
No, they are not the same thing. Politics is about the day-to-day issues of life, decisions that are made by ruling government. It affects our day-to-day activities. Therefore, we should speak to issues. I mean, Bishop Desmond Tutu will speak to national issues. Nelson Mandela spoke to national issues when, he was fighting against apartheid. Dr. Martin Luther King spoke to him, a pastor spoke on national issues. That is what the church must do.
But our churches find it very hard to speak on national issues. I don't remember that they being outspoken. I mean, apart from hearing Dr. Mensa Otabil come out to say something about education, which he says he was misconstrued and it became a whole lot of issue. Sitting back, I haven't really heard pastors come out boldly enough to mention specific national issues and suggest ways they feel could be directed for the national benefit. I don't see that.
No, Stephen, I recently, when we celebrated our 56th independence, I spoke on Ghana at 56, moving Ghana from a third world to the first world in one generation. And I highlighted a lot of issues. And I said categorically that the problem of our underdevelopment is caused by the politicians. And I spoke on national issues. And then the next point I gave, I said that about 80 to 90% of our politicians are not leaders. They hold positions, but they are not leaders. And that is why we have the problems we do have.
Did you not receive any bashing from your church?
Fortunately, I mean, both the two major groups, agreed to my position. Because it was not neither for A nor for B. There were facts, issues that, and I gave examples, because the politicians are the cause of our underdevelopment in this country. For example, if a ruling government is in power and decides to enforce law and order and get those people and hawkers off the street, the minority would fight against that. Then when the flipboard changes and then the minority gets into government, and now there is pressure on them, and they need to take a decision.
And the thing is that the Christians who are the receiving end of that instruction will also pray against it, really. Seriously. I mean, if you're kicking me off the street for where I make my living, where I pay my tithes from, I will pray against that decision and ask God to intervene
but God
so that I'll
listen.
Remain in the street and make a living to pay my tithe
you
to
may
the
be
church.
Right, but God wouldn't listen to lawlessness. That if it has to do with lawlessness. I mean, when people ask Jesus whether they should pay tax or not, he said, whose head is on the coin? They said, for Caesar. So give to Caesar what belongs to him. So once we begin to do the right thing, God will endorse doing the right thing and not to encourage lawlessness.
But it would. I mean, you have clearly said that what the Archbishop said is absolutely correct, that these are happening. And then you even trace it back to the era of the revolution and the church's stance against violence and revolutionary tenets that were very typical in those days. So you don't share any different view. You think that this is it, and it's happening in our churches.
I think that this is the moment of truth. For me, I think that the church should own up and be bold, and even to some extent, if we have to apologize, because I think that the church has not been able to win itself of the anti-rolling sentiment.
That's a very harsh one. You want the church to apologize.
I'll tell you something. When Rollins took over 31st in the 80s, he came with this Religious Registration Act, which made a lot of churches lose their churches. They could not forgive him for that. They saw it as a persecution. It rolled over in 92 when we entered into party politics. The church and the clergy saw the NPP as a kind of a partner in dislodging.
I know what you're saying. I have a fair understanding. But look, when I was in secondary school in the 80s, in the early to late 80s, where the religious charismatic movements were shaping up in the scriptural unions in schools, we didn't have any restrictions, really. We didn't have any laws clamping our inability to worship or fellowship. And these were under the MPNDC.
That's what I'm saying, that as we are coming, things started changing, But once the people took an entrenched position against the PNDC, that was it. We had in Ghana here, late 80s to the 90s, we had evangelists who hold crusade publicly, and the crusade is against the PNDC government. And
you remember some?
I remember.
Specific ones?
Morgan, Kohatin, and others. So, and it was something that we enjoy, because we felt that they were fighting for the church. And that thing we have not been able to overcome, that we've not accepted the fact that we have entered into an environment where we have to come to the middle again and continue to follow our core values of speaking for truth and in the interest of the people.
Let me put that issue to Dr. Bosma. Sorry, you're still on the line. You can hear the debates that are coming. Now, when you listen to such historical antecedents that are coming in from the church's angle, that the revolutionary era and the kinds of persecution the church perceived formed a certain resistance against a particular political party movement. Do you, from your studies, see this trend or observe such a trend to have happened in our history?
Well, I think although we recognize the importance of history, I wouldn't subscribe that the current developments will have anything to do with what happened during the PNDC era. We must understand that from a particular perspective, because any military government could be authoritarian or totalitarian, and usually some of them would like to clamp down on religion. So under such a scenario, it will be normal for some people to organize crusades just to talk against some of the injustices in the society. But moving on to what is happening currently, I personally think that churches should not allow themselves to be politicians, because if anything at all, churches have a divine mission. They are supposed to pursue the agenda of God, not the agenda of any political party. And when you look at the political divide we have in Ghana, we don't have the major divisions like, is it in the USA, in Britain, they talk about pro-life and they talk about pro-choice. Some people believe in abortion rights, some people do not believe in that. In Ghana, all of us seem to understand that gay rights is unacceptable. We seem to believe that the church in general has a position that no, abortion is not the way to go. So Ghana is not a country the church should be divided along party lines or along partisan lines, because all the political parties have told them that they are against gay rights, they are against abortion rights. So when it comes to some of these issues, then the churches must be together. But the problem we are having is that some of the leadership of the churches, they tend to identify with some elements in certain political parties. And I think this should be normal. But I mean, don't you? Things occur, many Ghanaians interpret that to mean that you belong to party A or you belong to party B.
But Doc, the point I'm trying to make here, Doc, Doc, the point I'm making is that, look, our society, our social structure is ethnically divided. I mean, people who form political parties come from various ethnic groups. That we cannot deny, because that is the nature of our social structure. So is it not fair, really, that when people are divided along ethnic lines, they could easily also be divided along political lines, and still there will be a healthy coexistence, and we'll still have efficient political party systems and administrations?
Yeah, definitely. The ethnic factor, we can't deny that in Africa. But the point is that as we are growing as a country, as we are maturing our democracy, we should expect that there should be some of this de-alignment where ethnic groups should be able to change their positions on certain important political matters. But it looks like this is going to be very difficult in Ghana. So this is why the winner takes all issue again comes in. The winner takes all, it does what I call a divided country. But once we are having different ethnic groups, the best way for us to go is to look at how do we run a system that will bring the best among all Ghanaians, rather than a system that will be able to pit one ethnic group against the other. And as you said, once we are divided along ethnic lines, some of the religious groups are also based on ethnicity. You mentioned this church and you are going to get many members from a particular ethnic group. So these are the things we must address.
Right. Bishop Samuel Mensah, you want to say something in reaction to Dr. Bosman Asare?
Yes, I think by and large I agree with him, and I think that it's because, Stephen, because we are still maturing in our democracy. And at least we should forgive ourselves. We should understand the issues that these are teething problems when it comes to our democracy. Just about 20 years of democracy cannot be compared to 250 years of democracy in the United States. Therefore, we are still growing and maturing. But I think we can accelerate our development, you know. And so the concept of the winner takes it all is one issue that it must take a very strong political will and political leadership to begin to move from that type of concept, so that you bring everybody on board, let everybody knows that Ghana belongs to them. So that it's very worrying when a government takes office and then people say, well, it's our government. We are now in power. So they go about closing offices, shutting down offices, total disregard for law and order. You know, I think political leadership should be able to speak to the issues on national issues. That, hey, listen, whether you belong to party A or B, if you break the law will deal with you. Now that elections are over, it's about Ghana. It's not about MPP, NDC, or party A or party B. This must be exhibited by our political leaders. They must have the political will to drive it. They set their agenda. You know, like in any organization, it is the leader that determines the temperature of the organization. So the president determines, you know, the culture and the temperature of the organization, of the nation. And he must drive the unity forward and to begin to let people know that, look, we want to bring all of you on board.
So this is about leadership.
It's about nothing but leadership. And for me, that is the core matter, that is the core issue in this country and for that matter on the continent, and why we are still underdeveloped.
Benny Wood, yeah. I mean, the Archbishop, when he mentioned religious sentiments and that churches are being divided, one question that stuck to my mind is that it's very clear. You can see from the utterances of particular pastors or men of God where they belong. I mean, Otabil, for example, is perceived to be sympathetic to MPP, and Archbishop Duncan Williams himself is perceived to be sympathetic to the NDC. These things are real. They cannot totally divorce themselves from their affiliation or their sympathies to political parties. I don't see anything wrong.
Yeah, but you know, there's something I'm seeing. I don't know if many people are looking at this the way I'm looking at it. The reason why I've studied the Kenyan issue. You realize that Kenya had gone a bit faster, and people are making reference
dealing
to
with
Kenya
the court case
because the church, what we are doing in Ghana here, Kenya has done it, and so I disagree with the political scientist when he's trying to say there is the winner take all. It is not the winner take all. That's the problem. In Kenya, it was not the winner take all. It is church division and tribal sentiment that caused the problem in Kenya. It's not Uhuru has been elected. He's winner taking all. Everybody is quiet. So I don't want us to think that the church, the problems in the church, the divisions in the church, and the tribal sentiments in the nation is not.
No, I think you're shifting.
No, he didn't subscribe to that. He didn't say it's the winner take all. That is the cause of
because
the whole
when he was saying that the historical antecedent has nothing to do with what was going on, and yes. I'm trying to tell him that it has.
Okay.
Because the church, like I'm saying, the church has not been able to overcome the position they took against Rollins is NDC, and so in Ghana it's two political parties. Now here it is. In Kenya, the church this time around took a firm decision that we are out because they play a role. 400 churches were destroyed in Kenya. Why? Because the people did not see the church as a neutral body anymore. And that's what is happening in Ghana. So we should not wait till it gets to a point where people see that decide to go to church based on what party the pastor belongs. And that's what I want us to guard against and not try to push it aside and bring in only the political aspect. The religious aspect is so crucial and important because in terms of war, one of the places you can get to hide is the church. Now, once the church, there's a particular church in Kenya, 200 people went to stay in the church. The people went to surround it with full mattress, pour petrol on it, and burnt it down. because they saw the pastor of that church as belonging to a political party. And that's why I'm saying that the church must own up and begin to clear this thing out of the minds of people.
Let me get your argument clear. You are suggesting that church neutrality is
so important.
Key. So that, for example, if I ask you right now where you belong, whether you support NDC or MPP, you won't tell me because you want to be neutral?
No. If any political party is doing something I know is against God, against the people of Ghana, against the interests of this nation, I will speak it out without fear of fear.
Whether you are for them or
no matter who it is. That's what I want the church to do.
Do you have a standing? I mean, do you have a political standing?
I have a principle. I don't have a political standing. I have a principle I believe, and that's the principle of the Bible. How humanity must live, how people must be governed. That's what I believe, and it's all in the Bible.
But, you know...
you cannot fix a nation economy without fixing its morality. And the church is the high priest of morality. So we cannot be pushed aside.
Bishop Mensah, when you started saying that churches should be engaged in politics, I've forgotten the exact words
politics
you said.
And not party politics.
Not partisan politics. Yeah. Where then will the church's role in influencing national development, national discourse, and shaping the right agenda for this country, where will it lie then?
Look, once the church is beginning to speak on national issues, that is the politics that the church is involved in. Because decisions taken, policies that are made by government affect everybody, including the people who are in church. Therefore, if the church wouldn't speak on these issues, for example, when one time we read in the papers that market has been erected in the middle of the road that leads to Adenta Road, the new constructed
highway.
The highway. That is something that any pastor and any preacher should speak. And I spoke against that. That I said that is lawlessness, that is highest order. Regardless of who is in power. And we have spoken on some of these issues. This, Dunso thing happened during the PNDC, the Rawlings era, the government going on strike, water shortage, schools under trees. All these basic elements were reflections in NDC to NDC 1, NDC 2. In Kufuor's government, it was the same. Now John Mohammed's government is the same. So nothing is really changing. Okay, until we begin to provide a right kind of leadership, in the next 10 years from now, if we have a new government and we have the same principle, we are going to be in the same situation we find ourselves. Therefore, that is why the church must speak on national issues and begin to get people, because government has the instrument of power, but civil society has the power to influence the direction that the nation must go. Till we do that, we will definitely be marking time.
But, I mean, Bishop Bennywood, don't you think that the church has been cowed down by these labels? I mean, for example, several pastors will decide to keep quiet because they're worried that they will be tagged or labeled NDC or MPP. And that is also affecting your ability to boldly declare what you think is right or wrong?
I don't think so.
I'll give you a typical example.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Reverend Dr. Mensah Otabil, when I was fellowshipping from very young, 16 years at International Central Gospel Church at the Baden Power Hall, was a radical preacher, man. What I have seen is that he has shifted to the middle ground with the times. Over the years, he has become what I would say politically correct. Pastors are becoming politically correct for convenience, isn't it? That's bad.
That's wrong. You see, Jesus himself, who even died for the world, there are people who still don't believe that he did the right thing. So if you're a man of God, when you see truth, you don't think about tagging the name people are going to put on you because you are going to speak truth. When you do that, you are losing your power as a man of God. The strength of a man of God is his ability to speak the truth in the face of threat and fear.
Perhaps you pastors are too much loud mouth.
No, sometimes I get surprised when people are scared of being tagged NDC MPP. The kind of politics NDC MPP are playing is immature. So you don't have to bother yourself about it. It's amateur, it's a class 1 politics they are playing. It doesn't make any nation better. So the only way we can let them mature is to be able to tell them the truth. If we don't tell them the truth and we keep compromising with them, we will never get to anywhere. We will continue to practice this JSS type of politics, which will not send this nation anywhere.
Bishop Mensah.
Indeed. You know, Stephen, it's unfortunate.
GSS type of politics. I like that description.
Yeah.
Is that how you see our political development?
You know why? Because we always talk about 20 years and 25 to 50 years. Because we use 2013 Range Rover in Ghana here today. So we know how to use good things. Why don't we develop our mind to 2013 politics in America or Europe? We should not try to always explain wrong. When
and make it right.
Yes, when something is wrong, it's wrong. Whether America is 250 or Ghana is 56, it doesn't make anything. We are all going to look at the same Bible to be judged. God is not going to judge America differently because they are 250 years in democracy and judge Ghana because we are 56.
You're very passionate about this, right?
We must face the truth. Truth is truth.
No, I agree with what he's saying. I agree with what Bishop Wood is saying, that, listen, we need to get our people to understand that it's about Ghana. Ghana must be the driving force. Ghana must be the determining factor. Without that, we definitely can't fix the problems of our society. And as for the politicians, they will constantly divide us. And that is why we don't have to begin to follow what they seem to be saying. And I keep saying that, look, most politicians, some of them, are not seriously thinking about the well-being of Ghana. And one good example, let me challenge you. Let me challenge every one of them as they look at me right in the face of this camera. I'm speaking through the camera. Let any politician who believes in our educational system take their children to the JSS and our primary public schools. If they believe in that, they are making the policies for the ordinary. They should send their kids to those schools so that you and I would know that they believe in the system that they profess. So naturally, they don't have their children there. They have their children in the high class.
So
schools.
you want President Mahama, for example, to take his children to Kanda cluster of schools, 1, 2, 3, 4 cluster of schools.
He can send his kids to any of those public schools.
And prove that the systems work.
I believe in the system. Now, when your children are in the system, you will make sure that the right things will be done, you will get the right teachers, and you will ensure that the school will be developed and will be upgraded. That is what we must challenge the politicians to do.
Well, tonight we're discussing politics and Christendom, and I have more of your messages coming in. I'll read a couple. Gentle K. Mike says, the NDC since Adam's time has always been against Christians and the church in general. It is no wonder that anytime they are in power, pastors get highly insulted. Nana Chineboa Amwako Francis, they claim to pray in the name of peace, but can peace prevail when there is no justice? But hey, please, is God a politician? Shame on to all those pastors. Yaobio says, by God's grace, MPP will win the court case because who jobless, no one cares. And Bonti Benjamin, you say, even the Bible paves way for democracy. Jesus Christ respected the views of people and makes political decisions as well during his missionary days. So there is nothing wrong if churches make political and economic decision in favor of the people. God bless our homeland Ghana. And Aaron York, you say, it is funny when people think that Christianity and politics are two distinct issues, forgetting that the Christians also find themselves in the political atmosphere. A bad political decision will severely affect all persons, irrespective of your religion. However, politicians should be mindful of their utterances when they find themselves in religious settings. At least a little respect for God should help them forego some unrealistic promises. And John Kumoji, you say that politics has broken into every part of our lives. Now, the place or church you worship with can determine the kind of political party you belong to. El Shaddai Daniel says, politics is really breaking the norms of the church in Ghana. If they read the Bible, they do politics with the verses. May God bless us. Quickly, I want to go on a break, but I can't go without raising some of these comments that have come in. Bishop Mensah, I noticed a particular one where Bonti Benjamin says that even the Bible paves way for democracy. Jesus Christ respected the views of people and makes political decisions as well during his missionary days. So there is nothing wrong if churches make political and economic decisions in favor of the people. Does that sound...
Yeah, by and large, there is nothing wrong when the churches make well, if in that sense, political, I don't know exactly what it means by political decision. But
did Jesus make
perhaps
decisions?
Political decision, not partisan political decision. You know, partisan politics is when you associate yourself publicly with a particular party and its ideology. But we encourage everybody to be involved in the voting processes, in our democratic processes, and that is part of our civic responsibility. But once that is done, we finish the voting and we declare a precedent, we should forget about. But unfortunately, we think, you know, from the first day a president is sworn in till the next day of election, every moment is just like a political tension. That should stop. And the church should begin to address these issues. It must stop so that we should all come together. Now let's build Ghana until the next political season, it's in place. But we need to address these issues. And so that is what we should, the church must be neutral and must be a relevant voice in this particular area.
And Bishop Wood, I mean, do you not think that it is unfair for gentle Mike to say the NDC since Adam's time has always been against Christians and the church in general? Perhaps this is feeding from the historical antecedents that you have put in the public space.
No, I don't think that I can say PNDC's era was not very favorable to the church.
But you don't want to generalize that for the NDC now?
I don't think
Okay,
I mean,
we'll take a break. I beg your pardon. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll put the issues in specific angles and we'll discuss solutions from there. Stay with us. Welcome back to PM Express. And Regimanuel Estates, with over 20 years unbeatable record at Katamanso, has 2 to 3 bedroom houses with expansion possibilities set within gated communities with superb infrastructure, 24/7 street lights, landscaped areas and social amenities including sports complex, educational facility, shopping center and health facility. Experience the new phase of urban living at Balloon Gate Apartments in Kwabenya, where Regimanuel Gray has brought to bear their exquisite and unparalleled hallmarks in designing 2-bedroom apartments with 2 bathrooms, a spacious living room, a fitted kitchen, a balcony that has become the delight of homeowners, corporate bodies and property investors. With an efficient and effective estate management service on site, your property can only appreciate and value. You can call Regimanuel on 020-222-9916 or 020-222-9918. The number again, 020-222-9916 or 020-222-9918 or UK, if you're in UK, 0208-5344-900 for a guided tour and get your allocation. Regimanuel Gray, express your value. Regimanuel Gray, let your dream, your choice. Limited, I beg your pardon, your dream, your choice, and our promise. So we'll return to the discussion now. I know that one of the biggest issues in our political history is what is going to be the outcome of the Supreme Court's ruling on the MPP's challenge of the election results. Now, I know that specifically as pastors or as men of God, you should be concerned. Bishop Samuel Mensah, let me start with you. How concerned are you that the period within which a judgment is made, a decision is made, whether Nanado, it favors Nanado or favors John Mahama? Have you thought about the possibility that there would be a lot at stake during that time?
Yes, indeed. Stephen, we have given a very serious consideration about the whole issue. And just recently, yesterday, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Churches had a meeting, and we looked at those issues, and we said to ourselves, listen, definitely there's going to be a verdict, and it will go either way. And definitely you have 50% of the people who will not be happy. You will have the others who will be very excited. They will go on the street and demonstrate and celebrate it. Others will be, disappointed with the whole process and what have you. So the church must begin to deal and address these concerns.
Sensitize its members.
We must sensitize the people, speaking on our platforms, begin to teach our people that whatever be the case, it's about Ghana that would win.
But is this a religious obligation?
It is a moral obligation. It is a moral obligation.
It's not part of your Christian call.
Yeah, no, it is part of our Christian call. We have a responsibility to the people. It's all about making sure that there is peace in the country. And if that is what we will do to maintain the peace, we have that voice. We have that voice. So definitely, it's just like there will be a psychological effect on the nation. Okay, both emotional and psychological effect. So it's just like somebody who has gone through a trauma or a situation, and then you have a psychologist to manage the person, the post-trauma processes. So definitely, we need to manage the temperature and the emotions of the nation. We haven't gone through this path before. But definitely, how do we handle it? And that is where each church must begin to address this and prepare the minds of our people.
Bishop Benny Wood, perhaps it is the reason why the MPP shouldn't have gone ahead after all. You wouldn't say that?
No, I think that if our democracy is being tested, that's good. I mean, it's part of the process of getting...
I mean, if you look at what tensions are likely to evolve as a result of these contests. And I'm sure supporters of the MPP have had sleepless nights over this as well. And the leadership...
I personally feel like we are going through a lot of turmoil, torture, as a nation. But the point is that we have agreed to follow a particular set of laws, the Constitution. And that's what the Constitution provides. So it's just that we never anticipated, but it's part of the constitutional provision, so we must follow it. What I think that can also be done is, see, in 2000, something happened. After the 2000 election, a lot of people were thinking, was Lawrence going to hand over? And then, by the next day, we saw he and Kufuor front page graphic. And that was it. When Kufuor was sitting and his hand was on the lap of President Rawlings. I think that we need, I really applaud and I'm happy for what GPC has done, getting involved and preparing the minds of the people to accept whichever outcome. But I also think that we must find a way to let the two political leaders I think that just saying you accept is not enough.
So let's get basics.
Yeah.
I mean, let's assume that Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP, they lose, right? I mean, the stakes are higher for them because they are not in power. They lose. What would you suggest the reaction of the sitting president, John Mahama, to be?
I would be happy if it's possible for him to drive to Nana Addo's house and go and sit down with him and talk to him. He's a president, but for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the unity of the nation, it will be a great sign of reconciliation if the moment he hears the verdict, Nana Addo will be, maybe NPP people will rush to his house and they will come and meet the president and another.
I know several men of God have seen a lot of visions. I mean, some have seen visions that this will go in favor of the MPP. Some have seen visions that it will go in favor of the NDC.
That is part of the problem.
Have you seen anything yourself?
It is part of the problem. In 2007, it happened in Kenya. Prophecies, public, open, and some of them even anointed the presidential candidate, publicly anointed them that God has chosen you. And so the church was confused.
You haven't seen anything. You didn't answer.
I don't even want to see.
Bishop Mensah, have you seen any vision?
I want the Supreme Court to say, I don't want to see.
Hinge our hope on vision of prosperity or vision of restoration of hope.
Let the Supreme Court see and tell us.
So you are waiting for the Supreme Court vision, not your own vision from Christ? This is a serious matter, really.
No, yes. May I appeal to all church leaders? It is more dangerous to begin to use prophecy to make declarations as to how the results or probably the verdict would go. Even if God has revealed to you, just keep quiet. Keep it to yourself. But it's very, very dangerous.
And ask God for confirmation in another way.
Certainly. So for me, we don't have to use visions or prophecy to probably influence our people. And like the question you asked, what will happen, what will John Mahama do? I think, first of all, he will have to speak to the nation, address the nation, that look, he understands that half of the people would not be too happy. He also understands that half of the people go to the streets and over-celebrate. Yeah. He should be able to speak to the two issues, that look, to calm the nerves of the people down and let them know that it's all about Ghana and it's about our destiny, and congratulate, Nana Addo publicly. And then also I agree that he can walk to his place and be able to, he must do everything to bridge the gap. Yeah. If it goes, if the flip side, the board is on the other side, it's the same thing that both of them should speak. Nana Addo should be on the national television and address the nation and also speak to the issue and the key to the future lies within the two leaders. Yeah. Once they be able to say, look, I respect the verdict, I agree, I congratulate the other partner, that settles the matter. Whilst the church is playing the role, they need to do what is expected of them.
Benny Wood, let me still keep on this my vision thing. I mean, where do you see Ghana moving towards in the next 5 years?
I think that...
What kind of Ghana do you foresee in the next 5 years?
I think the future of this nation will largely be determined by the kind of spiritual and political leadership that we will have.
Let's talk about the spiritual leadership. What kind of spiritual leadership do we need as a country? A country which has diverse religions, a country where there are Muslims, there are Hindus, and there are Christians. What kind of spiritual leadership
when it comes to spiritual leadership,
are we referring to?
In terms of spiritual leadership in governance, we don't really differ from other religions. I mean, it is the afterlife, that's where we struggle. But as to what should happen within our existence on earth, we don't really differ. If a Christian is in power, it is in the interest of a Muslim, because most of the things the Christian will push will go in the favor of the Muslims. So we don't have a problem with that. There's one thing you said that I really wanted to. You were saying that NPP is not in power, so the stakes are high on their side.
Yeah.
But I think it is higher on the side of the government, because you see, if you are ruling, even right now, I mean, look at we have just about 3 sets of workers striking, and the nation is in turmoil. So can you imagine if
But this turmoil didn't start with the coming into power of John Mahama.
Yeah,
it didn't start
I'm just
today.
saying that if you have 5 million people who decide not to play any positive role in 4 years of your governance, my brother, it's not going to be easy. So he needs...
So you say that the stakes are high for both?
It's higher for the government.
Really?
Yes. Because if the opposition decide not to get involved. You see, that's why sometimes you see some in countries, the opposition will say, we won't take part in the government. And the government will go all in to get them involved, because it also helps shape the mindset of investors and people who want to come and develop your nation with you. So I think that it's important that the ruling government knows that whichever way the result will go, he is the one who needs the opposition more.
Right, Bishop Mensah, I'll give you a closing remarks, so we'll wrap up.
Thank you. The Archbishop said something that till we have national agenda.
Yes.
It's a key. And for me, that's what I've been a great crusader when it comes to the national agenda, which we call the national vision. And the Ghana is just like an aircraft with a great pilot, great cabin crew, wonderful passengers, but without a navigational system. No matter how you take off the aircraft, it's bound to crash mid-air. Without a national vision for the country to chart a course, it is the vision that leads the leader, not the leader leading the vision. So
who do you think should be driving this national agenda, the National Development Planning Commission?
No, that must be the president. That must be the president. To be able to say, let's now develop a national vision. How do you do that? First of all political parties have manifestos. So that will be the starting point. Bring all stakeholders together, all political parties, all pressure groups, professional groupings together, and then let them formulate a national vision based upon all the political manifestos. Once that is done, then there is a legal framework that will support that. The president will then see to drive that. Not until we do that, Ghana will develop at a snail pace. And you're asking, in the next 5 years, where Ghana, or 10 years? Till we develop a national agenda, Ghana will be going in circles.
And we'll be going nowhere.
Regardless
we'll come back to the same problem of energy crisis.
Over the country.
Well, gentlemen, I'm grateful for your time. And Alukos Tamale, you say the clergy and our religious bodies must be seen as agents of transformation and not for selfish parochial political bluff. And Dume Viga Yao Midle, you say that the individuals that form up a political party, a particular church, besides their belief in a particular religion, are political. People grow these days with passion for things like religion, politics and political parties, sports, especially soccer. And Daniel Afeso says, yes, I think politics is getting in the way into our various churches. And if care is not taken, the churches will begin to lose their members, of which, if care is not taken, it will bring serious division in the country. Thanks for sending those messages. And thanks to you, Bishop Samuel N. Mensah and Bishop Prince Benny Wood. We were also joined on the line by Dr. Bosman Asari, political scientist. Thanks for making time with us. Join us again tomorrow for PM Express Corporate Wednesday. Good evening.